I sit in the Sunrise Community Credit Union on a crisp autumn morning, my fingers drumming against the padded armrest of a burgundy chair. The lobby smells of lemon polish and coffee, sounds of muted conversations and clicking keyboards filling the space. Through the tall windows, gold and crimson leaves dance across the parking lot. "It'll just take a minute, Stephanie." "A small refinance," Victor had said this morning, his voice casual as he buttered his toast. "We need your signature as a co-borrower." Now, watching the bank manager's hands tremble as he slides documents across his mahogany desk, I know something is terribly wrong. "Miss Adler, I need to point out some inconsistencies," Howard Langley says, his voice dropping to a near whisper. His silver-rimmed glasses catch the fluorescent light as he taps a blue pen against a signature line. "This appears to be your signature on previous loan documents, but our verification process flagged it." Victor shifts in his chair beside me, his cologne suddenly overwhelming. "What are you implying?" he demands, glancing at my mother, who sits ramrod straight in her chair, lips pressed into a thin line. "Mr. Langley slides a document toward me. "This signature from 3 months ago doesn't match our records." I stare at the flowing script that bears only a passing resemblance to my handwriting. The room seems to tilt sideways. "I never signed this." Victor's face flushes crimson. "Don't be ridiculous, Stephanie. You signed it at the house, remember? After your birthday dinner. I was in Chicago on my birthday, working. A presentation I'd spent weeks preparing for. I never signed anything," I repeat, my voice stronger. Victor stands abruptly, knocking his chair backward. "This is absurd. We'll take our business elsewhere." He grabs my arm, fingers digging into my flesh. "Let's go." I pull away. "No." His eyes narrow to slits. "Don't make a scene." When I don't move, something in Victor snaps. He lunges forward, shoving me hard. I stumble backward, crashing against the rope divider. The metal post topples with a clang that silences the entire lobby. A sharp pain blooms across my collarbone where his nails have torn my blouse. My heart hammers against my ribs like a trapped bird. The scratch burns as if traced with a lit match. My mouth fills with a metallic taste that I recognize from childhood, falls fear and adrenaline. This isn't about a loan. The realization crashes through me like a wave breaking against rocks. This is identity theft. My own parents. "How could you forge my signature?" I whisper, my voice trembling. The words feel strange in my mouth, as if borrowed from someone else's nightmare. Victor looms over me, his familiar face transformed by rage. 11 years ago, when my mother first brought him home, he'd smiled warmly and promised to be the dad you never had. I was 18, still grieving my father's death from cancer the year before, vulnerable to his calculated kindness. I turned to my mother, searching her face. "Did you know about this?" She won't meet my eyes. Instead, she stares at her lap where her hands twist a tissue into shreds. This can't be legal. The thought cuts through the emotional fog with surprising clarity. The scattered pieces begin to form a terrible picture. Their sudden interest in my promotion last month, questions about my savings, mail occasionally opened, by mistake. A security guard approaches from across the lobby, his measured steps and watchful eyes signaling he's been monitoring the situation. Victor's face contorts with fresh rage. He points a finger at my face. "You ungrateful little." I move quickly behind Mr. Langley's desk, putting solid wood between us. "I'm not signing anything," I state, my voice steadier than I feel. My mother finally speaks, her voice barely audible. "Don't humiliate us here, Stephanie. Family helps family. Family helps family." Her mantra throughout my life, wielded like a weapon whenever I hesitated to give them what they wanted. Money, time, loyalty that flowed in one direction. Victor straightens his jacket, attempting to regain composure. "You're overreacting. This was just to help with that retail plaza investment. The returns will benefit all of us." The retail plaza, his latest scheme that would finally make them rich, unlike the food truck franchise, the vacation rentals, or the cryptocurrency that had swallowed chunks of their retirement savings. "Mr. Langley clears his throat. "Miss Adler, I should inform you that this isn't the first document with your signature that's come through our bank." I grip the edge of the desk. "What?" "There appear to be multiple accounts in your name," he says carefully, glancing between me and Victor. "Credit lines, personal loans." Victor's eyes dart to the security guard, who now stands at a watchful distance. My mother clutches Victor's arm, her knuckles white against his navy blazer. The power dynamic is painfully clear. They stand united while I stand alone. I need to make a phone call, I say, pulling my cell phone from my purse with shaking hands. Victor argues with the security guard while I step into an empty office, my finger already pressing my brother's number. Caleb, I need you. Sunrise Credit Union. Now. My voice breaks on the last word. 20 minutes later, Caleb's work truck screeches into a parking space visible through the bank's front windows. He strides in wearing paint-splattered jeans and a flannel shirt with sawdust clinging to the shoulders, evidence of the cabinetry project he'd abandoned to come to my rescue. Let me see where he hurt you, he says, gently examining the scratch on my collarbone. His hands, calloused from years of carpentry, are surprisingly gentle. The same hands that had taught me to ride a bike when my father was too sick, that had helped me move into my first apartment. The choice before me is suddenly clear. Pretend this never happened and maintain a fragile peace, or take a stand that will forever change my relationship with my mother and stepfather. Caleb seems to read my thoughts. Document everything. Today, he advises quietly, before they come up with a story. His blue eyes, so like our father's, hold steady confidence. The Air Force hadn't just taught him airplane mechanics, it had given him an unshakable moral compass. I straighten my torn blouse, feeling something harden inside me like concrete setting. I want to know exactly what they've done. I sit in Carmen Velasquez's downtown law office 3 days after the bank incident, watching her methodically spread credit reports across her mahogany desk. The walls around us display framed court decisions, victories in fraud cases spanning 2 decades. Through the window, autumn rain blurs the city skyline into watercolors. $62,000 in fraudulent debt, Carmen says, tapping a red-tipped finger on a particularly damning page. And that's just what we've confirmed so far. The air leaves my lungs in a single rush. That can't be right. But the evidence stretches before me in black and white columns. 4 credit cards maxed out and now in collections. An auto loan application denied because of my poor payment history. A personal loan with a predatory interest rate that Victor had co-signed using my name both times. All statements went to your mother's address, Carmen points out, sliding another document forward. Systematic mail diversion is a common tactic in family identity theft cases. I stare at the unfamiliar P.O. box number listed as my mailing address. I never set this up. Of course not. Based on the bank records Howard Langley provided, Victor has been using your identity for at least 3 years. Carmen pulls out another folder. And he didn't work alone. This loan officer, Brandon Weiss, processed most of the paperwork. The signature verification flags were manually overridden each time. My throat tightens as I see how methodical they'd been. They planned all this. This isn't sloppy theft, Carmen says, her voice carrying the weight of experience. This is coordinated identity fraud. She hesitates before adding, and unfortunately, it's not Victor's first time. I found a similar pattern with his first wife's daughter. The revelation sends a cold wave through me. He's done this before? Carmen nods grimly. 10 years ago. The case was settled privately. I close my eyes, memories rearranging themselves with sickening clarity. Mom's constant guilt trips about how family helps family financially weren't about occasional loans as I'd thought they were laying groundwork. Victor's persistent questions about my work, bonuses, and promotion hadn't been proud interest, they were information gathering. The questions about my new apartment, I murmur, pieces clicking into place. The mail that arrived opened. They weren't accidents. Caleb's voice interrupts my spiraling thoughts as he walks in with coffee. I found something else, he says, placing a manila folder on Carmen's desk. Stephanie had an inheritance from Dad's life insurance, $20,000 in a trust that matured when she turned 25. I look up sharply. What inheritance? Exactly, Caleb says, his jaw tight. I found the original paperwork in Dad's old files. The money disappeared 3 months after your 25th birthday. A different kind of pain lances through me, not just the betrayal, but the realization that they'd stolen something irreplaceable. They weren't just stealing money, I whisper. They were stealing my future, my safety net. Carmen watches me with practiced patience, waiting as I process each new blow. What evidence do we need? I finally ask, straightening my spine. Carmen smiles faintly, approving of my shift from emotional reaction to strategic planning. She outlines the documentation required, the affidavits we'll need, the timeline for both criminal charges and civil restitution. This wasn't impulsive, I realize aloud. They didn't just take advantage of an opportunity. They created a system. Exactly, Carmen confirms. And systems leave paper trails. Caleb returns from the small kitchen with a stack of paper cups. As he hands me one, he shares what his background check on Victor revealed. Gambling debts, failed investments, 3 collection judgments in the past year alone. And Mom? Caleb's expression tightens. She secretly owns rental property on Mapleview Street while claiming financial hardship to you. Carmen leafs through another file. Victor's facing potential criminal charges from other creditors. If he doesn't find money soon, he could be looking at jail time for fraud unrelated to your case. They're not cartoon villains, I say, surprising myself with the observation. They're just people trapped in lies that kept growing. My phone vibrates with a voicemail notification. Mom's tearful voice fills the small office when I play it on speaker. Stephanie, please call us. Victor said it would just be temporary. Just to get us through. We never meant for it to go this far. Carmen exchanges a meaningful glance with Caleb. We all recognize the manipulation beneath the tears. A text message arrives from a mutual friend. Victor says you're overreacting. You think anyone will believe you over your mother? The threat lands with precision, targeting my deepest insecurity. But instead of doubt, I feel a strange clarity. They have nothing left to lose, I say, understanding the danger for the first time, which makes them even more dangerous. Carmen closes a folder with a decisive snap. We pursue this on 2 tracks: criminal charges for the identity theft and fraud, civil action for financial restitution. Caleb leans forward, forearms resting on his jeans. My spare room is yours for as long as you need. The bungalow has good locks and nosy neighbors. Howard Langley called this morning, Carmen adds. He's providing copies of all suspicious transactions going back 5 years. And the bank is issuing a victim affidavit to help clear your credit, Caleb says, sliding a business card across the desk. This is the fraud department contact. A lump forms in my throat at their coordinated support. 3 days ago, I stood alone against my parents in that bank. Now a team flanks me. You're not fighting alone, Carmen says, as if reading my thoughts. That's what they're counting on, that family obligation would keep you isolated. I study the mountain of paperwork before us, no longer seeing just betrayal but also the path forward. Unexpected strength settles in my chest as I reach for a pen. Let's get to work, I say, turning to the first affidavit. Later that day, Victor's old laptop sits on my kitchen table, like a black box containing secrets. Caleb found it yesterday, forgotten in the back of my coat closet. Check if there's anything useful on it, he'd suggested, his voice carefully neutral. I type in the password my birthday, of course, and the screen flickers to life. The desktop is cluttered with icons, and I click methodically through folders, searching for anything related to finances. Nothing. Just old vacation photos and work documents. I'm about to give up when I notice a folder labeled Investment Tracking. Inside, a single Excel file named Property Management catches my eye. I click, and a password prompt appears. I try my birthday again. Access denied. My mother's birthday. Access denied. Their anniversary. The screen unlocks. The spreadsheet blooms across my screen tabs upon tabs of color-coded information. My stomach drops as I scan the first worksheet. It's a meticulous tracking system of credit cards, payment due dates, and available credit limits, all in my name. I click through each tab with growing horror. One tracks credit bureau reporting dates. Another lists payment minimums with notes like, pay $50 above minimum to maintain good status. Then I find the smoking gun, a tab labeled S.A. Accounts. My accounts. Every single one. Checking, savings, retirement. Notes on my direct deposit schedule. My blood turns to ice water in my veins as I read a note. Bonus. Expected March 15 to $4,200 after tax. How did they know that? I click to the next tab and find an email exchange between Victor and Brandon Weiss, the loan officer at Sunrise Credit Union. The emails discuss the refinancing opportunity using my signature. Remember to use the sample from the application, not the signature card, Brandon wrote. Less chance of questions that way. I scroll through more emails, hands trembling. Victor responding, Lillian found the perfect signature in her keepsake box, from Steph's high school graduation card. vintage Stephanie, before she changed how she writes her name. My mother. She actively helped him. The final piece clicks into place as I find a document tracking my work travel schedule. Notations of when packages and mail were successfully intercepted. They waited until I was gone, took my mail, then replaced it before I returned. My phone vibrates, Carmen calling back. I answer, voice steadier than I feel. I found it. I tell her. A spreadsheet tracking everything. Accounts, credit limits, payment schedules, emails between Victor and Brandon Weiss, and notes from my mother about which signature to use. This is exactly what we needed, Carmen says, professional excitement in her voice. This proves premeditation and conspiracy. Can you email it to me right away, and then make a backup? I send the file, then sit back in my chair, a strange calm settling over me. For weeks, I've been stumbling through fog, trying to understand the scope of their betrayal. Now the picture is crystal clear. I understand what they did now, I tell Carmen. I can prove it. Sunday afternoon, golden autumn light slants through the maple trees lining my parents' street. I've chosen this time deliberately. Neighbors out walking dogs, tending gardens, washing cars. Witnesses. Caleb parks his truck at the curb. Ready? He asks, squeezing my hand. I nod, clutching my leather portfolio. Inside, printed copies of the spreadsheet, emails, and a restraining order application, already filled out. All I need is Victor's signature or an officer to serve it. We walk up the familiar brick path to the white colonial where I spent my teen years. The doorbell echoes inside. Footsteps approach. Victor opens the door, his usual confident smile faltering when he sees Caleb towering behind me. Stephanie, he says, voice tight. This is unexpected. We need to talk, I say, voice clear and strong. All of us. My mother appears in the hallway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her face pales. Stephanie, what's going on? May we come in? I ask, already stepping forward, not waiting for permission. This house doesn't intimidate me anymore. In the living room, Victor stands by the fireplace, trying to position himself higher, dominant. Caleb positions himself between us, arms crossed, a silent barrier. What's this about? Victor demands, voice rising. We've been trying to call you for days. I place my portfolio on the coffee table, pull out the first document, a printed copy of his spreadsheet. I have the spreadsheets, Victor, I say evenly, and Brandon Weiss is cooperating. The color drains from his face. My mother sinks onto the sofa. I don't know what you're talking about, he tries, but his voice lacks conviction. I pull out the emails next. Account 45621, open January 14th. Account 78302, open March 8th. The city card with a $24,000 limit that's currently maxed out. Victor's eyes dart to the window. Mr. Peterson is trimming his hedges just outside, pretending not to watch. Stephanie, my mother whispers, we were going to pay it all back before you even knew. Like you paid back your first wife's daughter? I ask, watching Victor flinch. Yes, I know about that too. Victor steps forward, but Caleb shifts subtly, a reminder of his presence. Victor stops mid-stride. This is a family matter, he hisses. We can work this out privately. I remove the restraining order application from my portfolio. Sign this, acknowledging you've seen it, or the police will deliver it. Your choice. You wouldn't, my mother gasps. She already has, Caleb says quietly. The police are just waiting for our call. Victor stares at the document, jaw working. Then, with shaking hands, he takes my pen and signs, his penmanship jagged with suppressed rage. This isn't over, he says, eyes narrowed. Actually, it is, I reply, gathering the papers. The bank is freezing all the fraudulent accounts, and any attempt to contact me violates this order. I stand, back straight, chin high. Through the window, I can see 3 neighbors now, whispering behind Mr. Peterson's hedge. Perfect. Let's go, I tell Caleb, turning my back on my parents and walking toward the door. Behind me, I hear my mother begin to sob, but I don't turn around. The autumn air feels crisp and clean as we step outside. I walk to the truck without looking back, feeling taller with each step. At Caleb's bungalow, the smell of garlic and tomatoes fills the kitchen. Carmen arrived early with bags of Italian takeout and a bottle of champagne. To facing down bullies, Caleb toasts, raising his glass. Just like when we were kids. Except now we have the law on our side, Carmen adds, her professional demeanor softening with pride. You handled that perfectly, Stephanie. The documentation is impeccable. My phone rings. Howard Langley's name flashes on the screen. Miss Adler, he says formally. I wanted to let you know that Brandon Weiss has officially confessed to bank fraud. He's provided a full statement to the authorities about his involvement with your stepfather. Thank you, I say, a weight lifting from my shoulders. For everything. We've barely hung up when there's a knock at the door. Mrs. Garcia, from 2 houses down, stands on the porch holding a warm apple pie. I saw what happened earlier, she says, pressing the pie into my hands. We always thought Victor was strange about money. Too many get-rich-quick schemes. She squeezes my arm. You did the right thing, honey. After she leaves, I sit on Caleb's porch swing, watching the evening light fade behind the oak trees. The pie cools on the table beside me, its cinnamon scent mingling with autumn air. For the first time since this started, I feel clean again. I tell Carmen and Caleb as they join me on the porch. I take a deep breath, weighing the question that's been on my mind all day. Do I push for full criminal charges now, or wait to see what else they've done? Carmen starts to answer, but I raise my hand. Not tonight, I say. Tonight we celebrate this victory. Tomorrow we plan the next one. Tomorrow we plan the next one. And for the first time in weeks, my smile feels genuine. I spread folders across Carmen's cherrywood desk, arranging them in perfect chronological order. 1 week has passed since we confronted Victor and Lillian with the restraining order, and the initial rush of victory has been replaced by something cooler and more calculated. We need to think of this like constructing a building, I tell Carmen, placing a yellow legal pad beside the stack. Foundation first, then framework, then finishing details. Carmen nods, her silver-streaked hair catching the afternoon light as she reviews Victor's bankruptcy filing from 2017. You've got the right mindset now, Stephanie. Emotional confrontation was necessary, but it won't be enough. I tap my pen against the rental property documents Caleb discovered. Mother never reported this income on her taxes, not once in 6 years. Leverage, Carmen says simply. We spend the next 3 hours dissecting their vulnerabilities, mapping a 3-phase strategy: criminal charges for the identity theft, civil restitution for financial damages, and a separate track for credit restoration. With each document we examine, I feel myself hardening like concrete setting in forms. I'm studying fraud statutes every night, I tell Carmen, opening my laptop to reveal bookmarked legal resources. Knowledge is protection. You're approaching this exactly right, she says. When do you want to file the police report? Tuesday, after I finish documenting the last credit card account. The words come easily now, without the tremor that once accompanied thoughts of taking legal action against my own mother. Carmen raises an eyebrow. You're maintaining remarkable distance. I need to think clearly, not angrily. I reply, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. We're not just throwing punches in a bank lobby anymore, we're building a case that cannot be dismissed. Later that evening, Caleb drills mounting brackets into the eaves of his craftsman bungalow. The electric screwdriver whirs as he installs the 3rd security camera. One more at the back door, he says, wiping sweat from his forehead with his forearm. Then we'll install the same system at your apartment tomorrow. I hold the ladder steady, watching my brother work with the same methodical precision he applies to his cabinetry. Carmen is coordinating with the bank's fraud department. They're sending complete transaction histories going back 5 years. Caleb nods, his focus unwavering as he adjusts the camera angle. Good. The more documentation, the better. Cordes. Inside, my laptop screen glows with a spreadsheet tracking every unauthorized account, every forged signature, every dollar amount. I've become a forensic accountant of my own victimization, cataloging betrayals with clinical precision. My phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. Background check confirms similar pattern with Victor's previous stepdaughter. Call me. When I call, her voice is tight with controlled anger. He's done this before, Stephanie. Different tactics, but same outcome. We can potentially use this under pattern of behavior evidence. I add this to our growing arsenal, feeling not satisfaction but a professional sense of thoroughness. We're building connections with bank security teams, credit bureau investigators, identity theft specialists, forming a network that will eventually close around Victor and Lillian like a net. That evening, Carmen's face appeared solemn on my video call. I found a problem. The statute of limitations on the oldest fraudulent accounts, we can't include those in the criminal complaint. For a moment, the old panic flutters in my chest. How many accounts are we losing? 3. But that's not all. Carmen shuffles papers off-screen. Victor has retained Jonathan Mercer. My stomach drops. The fraud defense attorney from the Westlake case? She nods grimly. They still have resources despite the restraining order. Connections we didn't account for. I absorb this blow, then straighten my shoulders. We'll focus on the most recent violations then. Those are ironclad. We need to file quickly, Carmen warns, before more evidence conveniently disappears. I close the video call and stare at my meticulously organized files. The strategy needs adjustment, but the foundation remains solid. I won't be outmaneuvered by the people who taught me to play chess on Sunday afternoons before they decided to make me a pawn in their financial games. Tomorrow we continue building our case, block by careful block. Not with the desperate rage of the betrayed, but with the cold precision of the architect of justice. Next morning, after I went to the bank to handle the last account, I spread color-coded files across Carmen's conference table, each representing a different aspect of my case against Victor and my mother. The room smells of coffee and lemon polish, Carmen's law office, a sanctuary of order and purpose. The morning light filters through Venetian blinds, casting thin stripes across the mahogany surface. This is everything. I say, tapping the red folder. Criminal complaint with input from Jackson Reeves at the prosecutor's office. Maximum impact on the identity theft charges. Carmen nods, flipping through the document. The prosecutor was impressed with your documentation. Victor's pattern goes back further than most cases they handle. Caleb sets down 3 binders on the edge of the table. Family history timeline, he says quietly, shows how they escalated from small boundary violations to full financial manipulation. I've never seen my brother look so tired. The past 3 weeks have hollowed his cheeks and darkened the skin beneath his eyes. He's been working overtime to help me while maintaining his cabinetry business. His hands, usually so steady with fine woodwork, have a slight tremor as he arranges the binders in chronological order. The credit bureaus have been notified, Carmen says, checking items off her legal pad. They've placed fraud flags on all your accounts. That should prevent any new accounts from being opened. Howard sent over the bank's complete investigation file, I add, indicating the blue folder. And Brandon Weiss gave a full statement about Victor's instructions for handling my forged paperwork. I stand back, surveying the comprehensive documentation of my parents' betrayal. Witness statements, bank records, credit reports, transaction histories. A paper trail of calculated deception spanning years. We're not just stopping them, I say, the words tasting like certainty on my tongue. We're making sure they can't do this to anyone else again. Carmen studies my face. Are you ready for tomorrow? Once we file these charges, there's no going back. Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Adler? This is Officer Merritt, Palm Lakes Police Department. There's been a break-in at your apartment. Goddler. The words hit like a physical blow. Was anything taken? Not taken. Destroyed. I think you should come see for yourself. 30 minutes later, I stand in my kitchen, glass crunching under my shoes. The apartment I've kept meticulously organized is unrecognizable. Cabinet doors hang from broken hinges. Drawers have been emptied onto the floor. Every framed photo lies shattered, but it's the kitchen wall that makes my breath catch. In red spray paint, 3 feet high. Family first. Officer Merritt documents the damage with her camera, the flash illuminating the dripping letters. The building manager found it when a neighbor reported hearing glass breaking. Security camera was disabled first thing, but we're checking street cameras. This is a restraining order violation, Caleb says, voice tight with anger. Victor was ordered to stay 500 feet away. I step carefully around broken dishes, noticing my file cabinet has been pried open, papers shredded and scattered like confetti. My home office looks like it's been hit by a tornado. Laptop screen shattered, printer smashed. They're looking for the evidence. I whisper, a cold realization washing over me. They don't know we've already copied everything. Later, at the police station filing the report, the sergeant asks, any idea what they were after? Everything, I answer, watching him type my statement. But mainly they wanted to scare me into backing down. Did it work? he asks, glancing up. I think about the red letters dripping down my kitchen wall. The warning couldn't be clearer. Cross family, face consequences. No, I say firmly. It just proves I'm doing the right thing. Back at Caleb's bungalow, Carmen arrives with takeout food nobody touches. Her face is grim as she looks at the photos from my apartment. There's more, she says, setting aside her untouched container. Victor has been asking questions about my previous cases. My assistant overheard him in the courthouse yesterday, trying to get information from the clerk about cases I've lost. He's looking for ways to discredit you, I say, a new fear surfacing. Should I find another attorney? I don't want to put you at risk. Carmen's expression hardens. Absolutely not. This is exactly why I specialize in family financial fraud. These intimidation tactics are textbook. We work late into the night, strengthening security protocols. Caleb installs additional cameras at both his house and Carmen's office. I catalog every document we've compiled, creating duplicate sets stored in separate, secure locations. The next morning, we gather for our final preparation meeting. Prosecutor Jackson Reeves joins us, his silver hair and bow tie making him look like a professor rather than a seasoned legal fighter. All documentation is indexed and ready for court filing. Carmen reports, sliding a thick binder toward him. We've enhanced security at all locations following yesterday's break-in. Jackson reviews the evidence summary, nodding as he turns pages. This is exceptional work. I rarely see identity theft cases documented this thoroughly. NDT. Caleb places a hand on my shoulder. You've done everything right, Steph. They can't run anymore. I look around the table at my team, not family by blood, but bound by something stronger. Integrity. Carmen organizing files with meticulous precision. Jackson flagging key documents with colored tabs. Caleb steady and vigilant beside me. This is the most comprehensive fraud case I've built in 20 years, Carmen says, closing the master file with finality. We file charges tomorrow. Tomorrow. The word hangs in the air like a promise. The planning phase ends. The legal machinery engages. I think of Victor's spray-painted message and feel something settle inside me. Not peace, exactly. Readiness. I'm ready, I say, and for the first time since this nightmare began, my voice doesn't shake at all. The morning sun hasn't yet burned through the fog when my phone vibrates against Caleb's coffee table. It's Carmen, calling 3 hours earlier than our scheduled check-in. They've vandalized the lake cabin, she says without preamble. Sheriff called it in. Broken windows, spray paint on the walls. I bolt upright, spilling lukewarm coffee across my lap. How bad? Bad enough. Your family photo albums were shredded, pages scattered across the dock. Her voice drops. There's more. Victor filed an emergency petition with the court this morning claiming you're mentally unstable and invented this whole fraud scenario after a family disagreement. I filed charges already, as we said previously. The coffee mug slips from my fingers, hitting the hardwood with a dull thud. Somehow the fact that it doesn't shatter feels more ominous than if it had broken into 1,000 pieces. He can't do that, I whisper, but the tremor in my voice betrays my uncertainty. He absolutely can try, Carmen says. His attorney is claiming you authorized those loans but changed your mind when you and Victor argued over that retail development. They're trying to delay the prosecutor's review scheduled for today. My stomach knots as a text notification pops up from Marjorie, my mother's oldest friend. Stephanie, your mother is heartbroken. How could you turn on your family this way? They're working the church crowd, I say, scrolling through 3 more messages, each more accusatory than the last. Mom's calling everyone, saying I've turned cruel. Classic manipulation tactic, Carmen replies. They're scrambling. Look, we need to move now. I'm filing for an emergency hearing to address these false claims. Through the kitchen window, I spot Caleb striding across the lawn, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing emphatically. When he catches my eye, he gives me a thumbs up. Caleb installed those wildlife cameras at the cabin during the weekend, I told Carmen, to catch the blue herons on the dock. Perfect. Those cameras timestamp images with GPS data. If they caught Victor trespassing, that's a restraining order violation. I hear her typing rapidly. Can Caleb get those photos to me within the hour? The front door swings open as Caleb enters, already nodding. Downloading them now. Got clear shots of Victor smashing the family room window at 5:32 this morning. His red Buick is visible in 4 different frames. My phone pings with another text. This one from Pastor Willard. Your mother was in tears during prayer group. Family reconciliation is God's highest calling. They planned this, I say, the realization landing like a blow. Filing the petition the same day the prosecutor reviews our case, destroying the cabin, turning the church against me. It's coordinated. Carmen's voice hardens. We're delivering the full evidence package to the prosecutor today with an urgent request for an arrest warrant. We have the bank security footage, showing Victor forging your signatures. They've overplayed their hand. This strengthens our case. While Caleb downloads the security footage, I shower and dress in the navy pantsuit I reserve for client presentations. The familiar routine of applying makeup steadies my hands. They want me frantic, off balance, vulnerable. I refuse to give them that satisfaction. By noon, Carmen has filed our response to Victor's petition, attaching the cabin photos with their damning timestamps. My phone continues buzzing with messages from church members and family friends, each one repeating my mother's practice script. We just want our daughter back. This is a family misunderstanding. Half the congregation believes I'm having some kind of breakdown. I tell Carmen when she calls with an update. My mother's playing the heartbroken parent routine perfectly. Let them, Carmen says firmly. The judge doesn't care about church gossip. She cares about evidence, and we have plenty. The emergency hearing is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8. Tomorrow? My voice catches. That's so fast. Exactly what we wanted. No delays. No time for them to manufacture more lies. She pauses. Stephanie, there's more news. The prosecutor just issued an arrest warrant for Victor based on the restraining order violation and vandalism. The world seems to still around me. When will they arrest him? Tonight, most likely. Officers are already looking for him. Carmen's voice gentles. This is happening, Stephanie. Are you prepared to see them in court tomorrow? Am I prepared? The question echoes as I spread our evidence across Caleb's dining room table. Financial records. Forged signatures. The cabin security footage showing Victor's rage as he tore through family mementos. My phone rings again. Unknown number. Is this Stephanie Adler? A man's voice asks. Yes. Officer Reeves, County Sheriff's Department. We've detained Victor Keene for violation of your restraining order and property damage. He's being processed now. I thank him, my voice surprisingly steady, and update Caleb, who's been standing guard since we received an alert about suspicious activity near his bungalow. You should try to rest, he says, checking the locks again. Tomorrow's going to be intense. But rest is impossible as I review my testimony one last time, preparing to face the parents who betrayed me. I'm struck by how different this feels from our confrontation at their house weeks ago. That was a skirmish. Tomorrow is war. Near midnight, Carmen texts, just finished prepping our case. Tomorrow we end this, permanently. I step onto Caleb's back porch, breathing in the crisp autumn air. The stars overhead seem impossibly bright, indifferent to human concerns like betrayal and justice. My old life burned down the moment Howard Langley slid those forged loan documents across his desk. Tomorrow, from those ashes, something new will rise. A text from an unknown number lights up my phone. We're still your parents. It's not too late to drop this. I delete it without responding and turn my phone off. Some bridges, once burned, should never be rebuilt. Next morning, I sit in the county courthouse, my fingers tracing the polished wooden bench beneath me. Sunlight streams through tall, arched windows, casting long rectangles across the marble floor where dust motes dance in suspended animation. The room smells of lemon polish and old books, a cathedral to order that makes my racing heart feel sacrilegious. The courtroom fills steadily, church members from my mother's congregation, neighbors whose curtains twitched when the police came, co-workers who covered my shifts when I couldn't face leaving Caleb's house. Each face represents a potential witness to whatever happens next. Public accountability in its rawest form. Caleb leans close, his shoulder pressed against mine. You okay? He whispers, his eyes scanning the growing crowd. I'm ready, I answer, surprised to find it's true. Carmen sits beside me, arranging documents with practiced efficiency. The prosecutor, Jackson Reeves, confers with her briefly before taking his position, his navy suit and confident posture telegraph authority. A ripple of whispers spreads through the gallery. My mother and Victor enter through the side door, their attorney between them. They've dressed like concerned parents visiting a school principal, Victor in a muted gray suit, my mother in a cream-colored dress with a cardigan that makes her look smaller, more vulnerable. The costume of worried parents, not perpetrators, Classic intimidation technique, Carmen murmurs. They're playing the reasonable family card. The judge enters, and we rise. Judge Eleanor Winters surveys the courtroom with shrewd eyes that miss nothing. She's known for her fairness and her intolerance for theatrics. Perfect. Victor's attorney, a silver-haired man named Lawrence Bentley, presents their case first. His voice carries the smooth confidence of someone accustomed to being believed. Your Honor, this is fundamentally a misunderstanding between family members, he says, hands spread wide in a gesture of reasonableness. The Keans were simply trying to help their daughter through financial difficulties. Miss Sa Adler authorized these transactions but has since changed her mind, following a personal disagreement. My fingernails dig crescents into my palms. The lie is so bold, so complete that for a moment I wonder if I've imagined the last few months. When my mother takes the stand, her performance is masterful. Tears glimmer but never quite fall as she describes their concern for me. We only wanted to help, she says, voice trembling. Stephanie has always been impulsive with money. We were just trying to protect her. The old guilt rises in my throat like bile. Family helps family. The mantra of my childhood, the chain around my neck. Then Carmen rises for cross-examination. She approaches the witness stand with the calm precision of a surgeon. Mrs. Keene, you stated that your daughter authorized these loans. Could you tell the court when and where that happened? My mother hesitates, her eyes darting to Victor. Well, we discussed it several times, at family dinners. Specific dates, please. Another hesitation. Last February after her birthday. Carmen picks up a document. According to Miss Adler's employer, she was in Chicago on that date, presenting at a logistics conference. I have her hotel receipt, plane tickets, and conference registration. My mother's face flushes. Then it must have been March. Interesting, because the first fraudulent credit card was opened in January. Carmen's voice remains conversational, but her eyes are sharp. Before this supposed authorization, Carmen continues, systematically dismantling my mother's timeline. With each contradiction, my mother shrinks further into herself. The prosecutor takes over, presenting a visual display of the evidence timeline. Brandon Weiss, looking hollow-eyed and nervous, testifies about Victor's systematic coordination of the fraud, how he coached Brandon to process paperwork without proper verification. Mr. Keene said it was a family arrangement, Brandon explains, not meeting Victor's glare. He said his stepdaughter was busy but had authorized everything. Howard Langley describes discovering the forged signatures, his voice steady and professional as he points out the discrepancies. Once we detected the first forgery, we found at least 7 others across multiple accounts. As each piece of evidence falls into place, I watch Victor's facade crumble. His practiced smile hardens, then fractures. When the prosecutor displays the spreadsheet tracking my accounts, the one Victor kept on his laptop, a flush creeps up his neck. Mr. Keene, Carmen asks during cross-examination, can you explain why you maintained a spreadsheet tracking Miss Adler's work schedule against mail delivery times? Victor shifts in his seat. I was helping manage her finances. By intercepting her mail? That's not. And can you explain these notes regarding her work presentations in Chicago, the ones that coincide exactly with new account applications? Victor's jaw tightens. I don't recall. You don't recall creating this detailed system for monitoring your stepdaughter's movements to better commit fraud? Objection! Lawrence Bentley stands. Counsel is badgering the witness. Sustained, Judge Winters says. Rephrase, Miss Velasquez. Carmen smiles slightly. Mr. Keene, did you create this spreadsheet? Yes, but... No further questions. The victory isn't in shouting or emotional outbursts. It's in the methodical dismantling of their lies, piece by piece, until nothing remains but truth. Judge Winters calls a brief recess. The courtroom buzzes with whispers as we wait. When she returns, her expression is grave. Based on the evidence presented, I am expanding the temporary restraining order to include Lillian Keene. She turns to the prosecutor. Mr. Reeves, does the state wish to proceed with charges? Jackson Reeves stands. Yes, Your Honor. The state is filing formal charges of identity theft, bank fraud, and witness intimidation against Victor Keene, and conspiracy charges against Lillian Keene. A court officer approaches Victor. The metallic click of handcuffs echoes through the suddenly silent room. Lillian. Victor calls, desperation replacing his earlier confidence. Tell them this is ridiculous. My mother doesn't move. Her eyes are fixed on her hands, twisted in her lap. The court is ordering all assets frozen pending civil judgment. Judge Winters continues. Mr. Keene will remain in custody. Miss Keene, while you are not being taken into custody at this time, this court finds sufficient evidence of systematic fraud to warrant further investigation. You may be facing additional conspiracy charges depending on the findings. The power shift is palpable. Where once they loomed over me as authority figures, now they stand exposed victor in handcuffs, my mother diminished by truth. I become aware of movement in the gallery. Several of my mother's church friends quietly rise and move to sit behind me. Mrs. Peterson, who taught my Sunday school class 20 years ago, squeezes my shoulder as she passes. The final hearing moves quickly. Victor is denied bail due to flight risk and the pattern of intimidation. The civil case is fast-tracked, with a lien placed on my parents' assets, including the rental property my mother kept hidden. The court orders immediate credit restoration procedures. Judge Winters announces, the evidence clearly shows Miss Adler was a victim of systematic identity theft. When it's time for victim impact statements, I stand. My legs feel surprisingly steady as I approach the podium. Your Honor, I begin, my voice clear in the hushed courtroom. Today ends the betrayal, but not the hurt. I look directly at my mother. Family means protection, not exploitation. What they stole wasn't just money, it was trust, safety. My belief that the people who should protect me wouldn't be the ones to harm me. I take a deep breath. I'm not asking for vengeance. I'm asking for justice, for consequences that match the calculated nature of these actions. My voice grows stronger. And I'm asking that this case help others who might be facing similar betrayals by family members, who might be trapped by the same twisted logic that family loyalty means accepting abuse. Judge Winters nods. Miss Adler, this court commends your remarkable courage in pursuing justice despite family pressure. Too often, cases like these go unreported because victims feel obligated to protect their abusers. She turns to Victor. Mr. Keene, you are facing a potential federal sentence of 14 years. To my mother, Mrs. Keene, you are looking at a minimum of 2 years probation, depending on cooperation with ongoing investigations. When it's over, Carmen squeezes my arm. This case will help others facing family identity theft. You've created a roadmap. Outside, rain has begun to fall, washing the courthouse steps clean. I step into the downpour, face tilted upward, letting the water wash away the last traces of shame and guilt. Water streams down my cheeks, indistinguishable from tears. I feel Caleb's presence before I see him, the solid reality of him blocking the rain. He holds an umbrella over my head, his expression a mix of pride and concern. Ready? He asks. I nod, straightening my shoulders. For the first time since this began, I walk away upright, not hunched against an expected blow. The rain continues to fall, erasing footprints behind us, washing the courthouse steps clean. 3 days after the sentence, I sit on the polished bench outside the federal courthouse, watching autumn leaves dance across the stone steps. The morning newspaper rests beside me, folded to show Lillian's public apology letter. Her carefully chosen words acknowledge what Victor denied until the end. They systematically stole my identity to finance a lifestyle built on schemes and lies. 14 years. I whisper, still processing Victor's plea agreement. The sentence feels both just and surreal punishment for betrayal that can't be measured in time alone. My phone chimes with a text from Mrs. Harrington next door. Lasagna tonight. No arguments. The neighborhood meal train continues 3 weeks after the sentencing, a surprising safety net of casserole dishes and watchful eyes. When Jeff Wilson across the street installed security cameras, he angled one toward my front door without being asked. I tuck the newspaper into my tote bag as Carmen exits the courthouse, her heels clicking confidently on stone. Credit Bureau number 3 finally cleared everything, she says, sliding her sunglasses onto her face. Your score should rebound completely within 60 days. The knot that's lived between my shoulder blades since that first day at Sunrise Credit Union loosens slightly. Last night, I slept 7 hours without startling awake, no longer fearing the phone might ring with Victor's accusations or Lillian's tears. I never thought I'd have to choose justice over family, I tell Carmen, watching a young couple push a stroller up the courthouse steps. They laugh at something their baby does, that pure parental delight I once witnessed between my mother and father, before cancer and Victor and loans I never signed. You didn't choose. Carmen corrects me, sitting beside me. They did, every time they forged your name. My email notification sounds the official offer letter for senior project manager, complete with a 25% raise. The promotion I nearly lost when collection calls started coming to my office. Later that evening, Caleb grills steaks at his bungalow, celebrating our newly filed co-ownership of the restored family cabin. The vandalism repaired, security installed, memories reclaimed. To the family we choose, Caleb says, raising his glass. I clink my glass against his, watching fireflies blink in his backyard. Not the family that chose to betray me. 6 months after the sentencing, I stand at a podium in the Sunrise Credit Union community room, facing 20 seniors, clutching coffee cups and notepads. Identity theft feels like drowning. I tell them, but you can reach the surface again. The confidence in my voice would have been unimaginable that autumn morning when Howard Langley's trembling hands pushed forged documents toward me. Now I help others navigate what once overwhelmed me: credit freezes, police reports, victim impact statements. Sunday mornings find me on the cabin porch, coffee steaming beside my laptop as I develop next month's Senior Center Fraud Awareness Program. The lake ripples with gentle waves, a far cry from the churning anxiety that once lived in my chest. Caleb appears with fresh muffins, sawdust still clinging to his flannel shirt. The East bedroom renovation starts today, he says. The contractor says we'll have space for 4 retreat participants by summer. My phone buzzes with a text from Carmen. Her fraud unit has taken on 2 new cases with my evidence template as their guide. 3 families have successfully prosecuted similar cases in the last 4 months alone, breaking silence that protected abusers. The corporate training I developed on recognizing financial abuse has been adopted by 3 national companies. From project manager to fraud prevention specialist, my boss joked when approving my flex schedule to accommodate speaking engagements. Therapy has helped me process without bitterness. Dr. Lyndon's gentle guidance, unraveling how Lillian's manipulation took root after my father died, when I was 18 and desperate for family connection. When Lillian requested reconciliation last month, I declined without the guilt that once would have crushed me. Full accountability first, I told her simply. Then we can discuss forgiveness. The scholarship fund for identity theft victims grows steadily at Sunrise Credit Union, where Howard Langley has become an advocate for bank policy reform. His silver-rimmed glasses still catch the light when he speaks passionately about prevention at community workshops. Exactly 1 year after that first confrontation, I sit in the same burgundy chair at Sunrise Community Credit Union. The lobby still smells of lemon polish and coffee. But today, I notice an elderly woman at the desk beside mine, her hands twisting a tissue as her son leans over her shoulder. Just sign it, Mom, he insists, jabbing his finger at the document. It's a small line of credit. We talked about this. The woman's shoulders hunch forward, her signature pen hovering uncertainly. I recognize the posture of someone trapped between family obligation and self-protection. A year ago, I was that woman. I approach their table with a credit union brochure. Excuse me, I say gently. I'm Stephanie Adler from the Fraud Prevention Department. We offer free financial reviews for all new accounts. The son straightens, irritation flashing across his face. We don't need that. Actually, the woman says quietly, I'd like to hear more. Later, in Howard's office, the woman sips tea while describing her son's gambling debts. Howard makes notes, his manner respectful and calm. Financial abuse thrives in silence, I tell her. Breaking that silence is how we heal. At the cabin that weekend, I help Caleb install new windows in the retreat space. The glass is specially treated to maximize natural light illumination for dark corners where secrets once festered. 3 more families have requested consultations with Carmen's legal team, using the templates we developed. I've been asked to testify before a legislative committee on family identity theft statutes, bringing visibility to crimes typically hidden behind closed doors. That evening, I write in my journal, forgiving myself for not seeing the signs earlier. The page fills with words I couldn't have written a year ago. Understanding, boundaries, growth. I close the journal and walk to the porch, watching stars reflect on the lake's surface. The signature that broke us also signed my freedom papers. Some family ties are meant to be broken so that something healthier can grow.